I walked into my parents' house at exactly 7:30 on a Tuesday evening, balancing a homemade apple pie in my hands. The same recipe I had perfected over the years. The one I brought to every family gathering even though no one ever seemed to eat it. The front door was unlocked, as always, and I could hear voices coming from the dining room. Laughter. The clink of glasses. I smiled, thinking maybe tonight would be different. Maybe this time they would actually be happy to see me. I was wrong. I stepped into the doorway of the dining room, and the laughter died instantly. My mother looked up from where she was setting the table with the good china, her face transforming from joy to something cold and hard in less than a second. My father sat at the head of the table, wine glass in hand, and he didn't even meet my eyes. Brittany was there too, perched on the edge of her chair like a princess holding court. And beside her sat a man I didn't recognize, his arm draped possessively around her shoulders. Hannah. My mother's voice was sharp, clipped, not the tone of a mother greeting her daughter, more like a homeowner addressing an unwanted solicitor. "What are you doing here?" I blinked, confused. "It's Tuesday. We always have family dinner on Tuesdays. I brought pie. We didn't invite you tonight." She set down the plate she was holding with a decisive clink. "This is a special dinner. For family only." The words hit me like a slap. I was standing in my family's dining room, and my mother had just told me I wasn't family. I looked around the room, waiting for someone to laugh, to tell me it was a joke. But my father just took another sip of his wine. Brittany examined her nails. The stranger, who I was now realizing must be Brittany's boyfriend, looked uncomfortable but said nothing. "Mom, I don't understand. I am family. Don't be dense." "Hannah." She walked toward me, and I instinctively took a step back. We're celebrating Brittany's engagement. This is her special moment. And frankly, we can't have you here bringing down the mood with your negative energy. You always do that. You walk into a room and it's like someone opened a window in winter. Everything gets cold. Brittany giggled. That high, tinkling sound I had heard my entire life, usually right before something cruel was about to happen. "Mom's right. You're kind of a buzzkill, Hannah. No offense. Actually," my mother continued, warming to her subject now, her voice getting louder, more confident. "We've been talking, and we've decided you're not welcome at Thanksgiving this year either. Brittany's engagement party is going to be combined with the holiday dinner, and we want it to be perfect. We can't risk you sitting there with your sour face, making everyone uncomfortable, acting like you're better than us." I stood there, frozen, still holding that stupid pie. I've never acted like I'm better than anyone. "Please." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "You moved to Portland, got your fancy architecture job, and suddenly you're too good for Boise. Too good for your family. Well, guess what? We don't need you. We never needed you." My father finally spoke, his voice quiet but no less cutting. "Your mother's right. Hannah, it's better if you just go. This is Brittany's time to shine. You've always been jealous of your sister, and we don't want any drama." The room spun. I looked at Brittany, waiting for her to say something, to defend me, to acknowledge that this was insane. But she just smiled. That same sweet smile she had used her entire life to get whatever she wanted, and shrugged. "Sorry, sis. But it's kind of true. You're always so intense and serious. We just want to have fun. You know?" Something inside me that had been bending for years, straining under the weight of a lifetime of this treatment, finally snapped. Not with a dramatic crack, but with a quiet, definitive click. Like a lock turning. I felt it happen. Felt the exact moment when the fear and guilt and desperate need for their approval just stopped. It was replaced by something cold and clear and absolutely calm. "Okay," I said. My voice was eerily steady. "I understand." My mother blinked, clearly surprised by my reaction. "Okay, that's it? No crying? No begging us to reconsider? That's it." I walked over to the table and set the pie down, right in the center of all that fancy china and those glittering wine glasses. Then I turned and walked toward the door. Hannah. My father called after me, and for a split second, I thought he might apologize, might realize what they had just done. Don't forget, you need to transfer money for the electric bill by Friday. And your mother needs the water bill paid too. The internet is also due. I stopped in the doorway but didn't turn around. No, I said simply. What do you mean? No? I mean no. Pay your own bills. I walked out before anyone could respond. I got into my car, set my purse on the passenger seat, and started the engine. My hands weren't shaking. My eyes weren't wet. I felt nothing except a strange, crystalline clarity, like I had been wearing glasses with the wrong prescription my entire life and had finally taken them off. I didn't drive home to my apartment in Portland. Instead, I turned east, toward the mountains, toward my grandfather's cabin in Bend, toward the first real decision I had made for myself in decades. As the lights of Boise disappeared in my rearview mirror, I realized I was smiling. Not the fake smile I had worn at every family gathering, but a real one. The smile of someone who had just been set free. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more about standing up for yourself and finding your own happiness, please hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment below telling me about a time you chose yourself over toxic relationships. Your support means everything, and I read every single comment. Now, let me tell you how I got here. Growing up in Boise, Idaho, I learned early that love in the Reynolds household was conditional and scarce. Our two-story house sat on a tree-lined street with a sprawling front yard, complete with a maple tree and a broken swing that no one ever bothered to fix. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. Inside, we were a carefully constructed lie. Brittany was born when I was 3, and from the moment she arrived, the hierarchy was established. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, beautiful, with honey blonde hair that caught the light just right, blue eyes that sparkled with mischief, and a laugh that made adults melt. She was outgoing where I was quiet, charming where I was serious, and somehow that translated into her being worthy of love while I was not. I remember being 14 and spending an entire Saturday baking my first apple pie from scratch for Thanksgiving. I had found the recipe in my grandmother's old cookbook, the one with the torn pages and butter stains. I measured everything precisely, rolled the dough until my arms ached, and arranged the apple slices in perfect spirals. When I pulled it out of the oven, golden and fragrant, I felt a surge of pride. Finally, I had done something that would make them notice me. My mother glanced at it when I set it on the counter to cool. It looks a little dry, Hannah, and kind of sad. Honestly, she didn't even try it. 20 minutes later, Brittany brought out a pie she had made. The crust burned black around the edges, the filling bubbling out in sticky puddles. My mother clasped her hands together and beamed. Oh, Brittany, you tried so hard. Look at that effort. Who cares if it's not perfect? At least you put your heart into it. I stood there, invisible, holding my perfectly golden pie that no one would eat. That was the moment I understood that nothing I did would ever be enough. The playing field wasn't just uneven. It didn't exist for me at all. The pattern repeated throughout my childhood and teenage years. When Brittany failed a class, it was because the teacher didn't understand her creative mind. When I got a B+ in honors chemistry, I was asked why I hadn't worked harder for an A. When Brittany forgot to feed the dog for a week, she was just busy with her social life. When I forgot once, I was irresponsible and uncaring. Every achievement of mine was minimized. Every mistake was unforgivable. Every time Brittany breathed, it was cause for celebration. You should smile more. Like your sister, my father would say at dinner, as if my face in its natural state was an insult to him. Hannah, you're the most selfish person I've ever known. My mother told me once when I asked if I could use the car to get to a job interview. Brittany had already claimed it for a shopping trip with friends. Everything you do is meaningless, my father said when I showed him my college acceptance letter to Portland State University. Your sister could have gotten into somewhere better if she had applied herself. I went to Portland for college and never really came back. Oh, I visited for holidays and birthdays, always bringing gifts, always trying to bridge the gap, always hoping that this time would be different. It never was. But I kept trying because that's what good daughters do. That's what I had been programmed to believe. After college, I built a successful career as an architect. I designed homes, commercial spaces, a community center that won a local award. I made good money. More than good, actually. And slowly, quietly, I became the family's secret ATM. It started small. Hannah, honey, could you help us with the electric bill this month? Your father's hours got cut. I sent the money. Then it was the water bill. Then internet. Then streaming services. Then the credit card payment. Then Brittany's car insurance. Before I knew it, I was paying for almost everything while they spent their money on vacations. New furniture, and whatever whim caught their attention. I set up automatic payments because it was easier than dealing with the monthly guilt trips. Every month, hundreds of dollars disappeared from my account, flowing into their lives while I lived in a modest apartment and drove a 7-year-old Honda. I told myself I was being responsible. I was being the good daughter. I was earning my place at their table. But I never had a place at their table. I was just the wallet they kept at arm's length. That night, as I drove through the darkness toward Bend, all of these memories played like a movie I couldn't pause. The highway stretched ahead of me, empty and black, my headlights cutting through the November night. The radio played softly, some folk song about going home. And I realized with a strange jolt that I had never really had a home. Not in the way that mattered. I arrived at the cabin just after midnight. The key was where my grandfather had always kept it, under the third stone to the left of the front steps. The door creaked open, and I was hit with the smell of pine and dust and memory. I hadn't been here since Grandpa Richard died 3 years ago. The family had fought over the property. My mother wanted to sell it, but the will had been clear. The cabin and the 50 acres it sat on belonged to me. Just me. My mother had been furious. He always liked you best, she had hissed at the reading of the will. Always playing favorites. The irony was so thick I could have choked on it. I dropped my bag on the floor and looked around. The cabin was small but sturdy. One large room with a kitchen area, a stone fireplace, and a loft bedroom accessible by a wooden ladder. The furniture was old but well made. Everything smelled like wood smoke and cedar. I walked to the window and looked out at the darkness, at the shapes of pine trees against the starlit sky. For the first time in my adult life, I felt something close to peace. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the sound of absolute silence. No traffic. No neighbors. No obligations. I made coffee in my grandfather's old percolator and sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the mist rise off the mountains. My phone sat on the table beside me. Screen, dark. I knew what I needed to do. I had known since the moment I walked out of that dining room. Perhaps even before that. I had known for years. But I had been too afraid. Too conditioned. Too hopeful that things might change. They were never going to change. I picked up my laptop and logged into my bank account. One by one, I pulled up each automatic payment. Electric bill for the Reynolds house. Water. Gas. Internet. Phone plan. Streaming services. Brittany's car insurance. The supplementary credit card I had given my mother for emergencies that she used for everything, but my cursor hovered over the first cancel button. My mother's voice echoed in my head. Good daughters help their families. Good daughters don't ask questions. Good daughters are grateful for the opportunity to give back. And good daughters, I whispered to myself, deserve to be at peace. I clicked cancel. Then I clicked it again. And again. And again. Each click felt like cutting a rope that had been strangling me. Electric. Cancel. Water. Cancel. Gas. Cancel. Internet. Cancel. All the streaming services. Cancel. 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 Brittany's car insurance. Cancel. The credit card. Cancel. 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 When I was done, I sat back and waited to feel guilty. Waited for the panic to set in. Waited for the voice that would tell me I was a terrible person, that I was being petty and cruel, that I was punishing them for the crime of having boundaries. But the voice never came. Instead, I felt light, lighter than I had in years. the invisible weight I had been carrying. The constant low-level anxiety about money and obligation, and whether I had done enough to earn my family's love. All of it lifted. I could breathe fully for the first time since I was a child. I closed my laptop and went for a walk in the woods. That afternoon, while cleaning out one of my grandfather's old storage trunks, I found a wooden box with my name carved into the lid. Inside was a letter, written in his shaky handwriting, dated just a few weeks before he died. My dearest Hannah, it began. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I hope you found your way to our cabin. This place was always meant to be yours. Not because you're perfect, but because you have a good heart. And good hearts deserve places where they can rest without judgment. I watched you grow up in Orphans, that house, and it broke my heart to see how they treated you. I spoke to your mother about it more times than I can count, but she wouldn't listen. She saw in you a mirror of her own insecurities. And instead of healing herself, she punished you for reflecting what she couldn't face. You don't need their permission to be happy. Hannah, you don't need their approval to be whole. The only person whose opinion matters is yours. So if the world gets too cold, too cruel, come here. This is your sanctuary. This is your home. And remember, you are enough. You have always been enough. The fact that they couldn't see it says everything about them and nothing about you. With all my love, Grandpa. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Not tears of sadness, but of recognition. Someone had seen me. Someone had known. Even though he was gone. Knowing that my grandfather had understood made all the difference. Attached to the letter was the deed to the property, legally transferred to my name, and a copy of his will highlighting the section that left everything to me. At the bottom, he had written in pen, "Don't ever let them make you feel like you have to ask permission to be happy." I wouldn't. The next day, I drove into the small town of Bend. I needed supplies if I was going to stay at the cabin for a while. As I walked out of the grocery store, I noticed a flyer taped to the community board. Volunteers needed. Thanksgiving dinner at Maple Grove Children's Home. Help us give our kids a holiday to remember. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the flyer. An idea began to form. Crazy and impulsive and perfect. I pulled out my phone and called the number. A warm voice answered. Maple Grove. This is Mrs. Evans speaking. Hi. My name is Hannah Reyes. I saw your flyer about Thanksgiving volunteers. Oh. Wonderful. We can always use help. Are you local? I am now, I said. But I was wondering if I could make a different kind of offer. I have a cabin about 15 miles from you, and I'd like to host Thanksgiving dinner there for your kids. All of them. I'll provide everything. Food, decorations, activities. I just want to give them a real Thanksgiving. There was a pause. I'm sorry. Did you say you want to host all our children for Thanksgiving? At your home? Yes. May I ask why? I thought about how to answer. Because I know what it's like to not have a place at the table. And I want to make sure these kids do. Mrs. Evans' voice softened. That's incredibly generous. Can I come see the space first? We have 23 children currently. Of course. When works for you? We arranged for her to visit that afternoon. When she arrived, a short woman with silver hair and kind eyes, she walked through the cabin and the surrounding property with increasing excitement. This is perfect, she said. The kids will love it. But are you sure? This is a huge undertaking. I'm sure. Can I ask what changed? Most people don't just wake up and decide to host 24 kids for Thanksgiving. I smiled. Let's just say I recently became available. The next few days were a blur of preparation. I bought a used dining table from a local furniture store, long enough to seat everyone. I borrowed chairs from the community center. I bought ingredients for turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, rolls, and 3 different kinds of pie. I bought craft supplies for the kids to make decorations. I bought board games and books and warm blankets in case anyone wanted to curl up by the fire. I decorated the cabin with paper turkeys and handmade garlands. I set up a hot chocolate station. I made sure there were vegetarian options and asked Mrs. Evans about any allergies or dietary restrictions. I wanted everything to be perfect. Not because I had something to prove, but because these kids deserved it. As I worked, I felt more alive than I had in years. This wasn't obligation. This wasn't earning love through service. This was choosing to create something beautiful because I wanted to. Because I could. Because it felt right. Thanksgiving morning arrived with fresh snow. The cabin looked like something out of a storybook. Smoke curling from the chimney. Lights glowing in the windows. The smell of roasting turkey filling the air. I had been cooking since 5 a.m, and I wasn't even tired. I was buzzing with anticipation. At noon, I heard the sound of vehicles approaching. 2 vans pulled up, and children started pouring out, ranging in age from 5 to 17. They were bundled in coats and scarves, their eyes wide as they took in the cabin and the snow-covered landscape. "Welcome," I said, opening my arms. "Come in. Come in! Let's get you warm." They rushed inside, filling the space with noise and energy and life. Mrs. Evans came in last, carrying bags of supplies, a huge smile on her face. "You weren't kidding about going all out," she said. "I don't do things halfway." The afternoon was magical. The kids made paper turkeys with googly eyes and glitter. We played charades. We sang songs. A little boy named Theo asked me, "Miss Hannah, are you lonely?" I knelt down to his level. "Not anymore. Buddy. Not anymore." While the kids played, Mrs. Evans helped me in the kitchen. We talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her 30 years running the home, about the kids who had come through, the success stories and the heartbreaks. I told her about my work as an architect, about my love of design and creating spaces where people could feel safe. I didn't tell her about my family. Not yet. That wound was still too fresh, though it was healing faster than I had expected. As the sun began to set, we all gathered around the long table. 23 children, Mrs. Evans, and me. 25 people who had become, in the span of one afternoon, something like a family. Before we eat, Mrs. Evans said, "I want us to go around and say one thing we're thankful for." The answers were beautiful and heartbreaking. Thankful for this meal. Thankful for a warm place. Thankful for Mrs. Evans. Thankful for new friends. Thankful for Miss Hannah. When it got to me, I looked around at all these faces. These kids who had every reason to be angry at the world but were choosing joy instead. "I'm thankful," I said, "for second chances. And for learning that family isn't about blood. It's about choosing to show up for each other." We ate until we couldn't eat anymore. The turkey was perfect. The sides were delicious. And the pies disappeared in minutes. After dinner, we roasted marshmallows in the fireplace and told stories. Some of the younger kids fell asleep on the couch, full and content. It was the best Thanksgiving I had ever had. While all this was happening at my cabin, glowing and warm and full of love, something very different was unfolding at my parents' house in Boise. They had set the table with their finest china, the good silverware that only came out for special occasions. My mother had cooked for days, determined to make this Thanksgiving perfect for Brittany's engagement. Celebration. The house was decorated within an inch of its life. Fall leaves and pumpkins, everywhere. Candles waiting to be lit. At exactly 6 o'clock, as they were sitting down to dinner, the lights went out. My mother shrieked. My father cursed. Brittany's fiancé, a man named Chad who worked in sales and thought he was far more impressive than he actually was, fumbled for his phone flashlight. "What the hell?" my father said. "Did we blow a fuse?" "Check the breaker," my mother snapped. He did. Nothing was wrong with the breaker. The power was just off. He called the electric company and was informed that the account was past due and service had been suspended. "That's impossible," he said. "We've never been late on a payment. According to our records." "Sir, the account's autopay was canceled 4 days ago, and the outstanding balance wasn't paid." My father's face went white. "Hannah," he breathed. "What about Hannah?" my mother demanded. "She's been paying our electric bill. For years." The realization hit them all at once. I hadn't just been paying the electric bill. I had been paying everything. And I had stopped. My mother grabbed her phone and tried to turn on the Wi-Fi. Nothing. She tried to pull up her streaming services. Nothing. She tried to check her email. No service. She looked at my father in growing horror. "Call her," she said. "Call Hannah right now." He did. The phone rang and went to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. He called 10 times. Then 20. I never picked up. My phone sat on the kitchen counter at the cabin, vibrating with increasing urgency, while I sat by the fire with a child on either side of me, reading them a story about brave nights and happy endings. Back in Boise, the temperature in the house began to drop. November in Idaho is cold. And without heat, the house quickly became uncomfortable. My mother tried to light candles, but they barely made a dent in the darkness. The food on the table, so carefully prepared, began to grow cold. Brittany started to cry. "This is supposed to be my special day, my engagement day, and everything is ruined." "It's not ruined, baby," my mother said, though her voice was shaking. "We'll fix this. Your father will fix it." But my father couldn't fix it. He tried calling the electric company again, but they wouldn't restore service without payment. He tried calling the gas company, only to discover that account had also been canceled. Water was next on the list to be shut off. Internet was already gone. Their streaming services, their credit card. Everything was either frozen or canceled. "She's doing this on purpose," my mother hissed. "That ungrateful, vindictive little bitch is doing this to punish us." "For what?" my father asked, though his voice suggested he knew exactly for what. "For nothing. We didn't do anything. We just told her not to come to Thanksgiving. It's not like we murdered someone." Chad cleared his throat. "Maybe you guys should try to work this out with your daughter. This seems like a family matter. Stay out of it," my mother snapped. "This is none of your business." The evening deteriorated from there. They tried to salvage dinner, but eating cold turkey in the dark while freezing is not conducive to celebration. Brittany's engagement, which was supposed to be the centerpiece of the evening, was barely mentioned. The conversation kept circling back to me, to what I had done, to how I had betrayed them. "I can't believe she would do this," my mother said over and over. "After everything we've done for her, we raised her. We gave her a home. We gave her a family. We told her she wasn't welcome." My father finally said quietly, "Maybe that's what this is about." "Oh, don't be ridiculous. She's always been overdramatic. Remember when she cried because we forgot her birthday? She was 22. Adults don't need birthday parties." They had forgotten my birthday. Multiple times. I had never mentioned it because I knew it wouldn't matter. The night ended with my parents huddled under blankets. Brittany and Chad leaving early to stay at a hotel, and a house that felt more like a tomb than a home. My mother sent me a series of increasingly furious texts. "Hannah, this isn't funny. Turn the utilities back on. You're being childish and cruel. If you don't fix this immediately, you're going to regret it. We're freezing. The food is spoiled. You've ruined Thanksgiving. I hope you're happy." I didn't read them until the next morning. When I did, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Not even pity. Just a calm, clear certainty that I had made the right choice. The day after Thanksgiving, my cabin full of happy memories and sleeping children who had stayed overnight at Mrs. Evans' suggestion. I woke up to find my phone flooded with notifications. Missed calls. Text messages. Voicemails. All from my family. I made coffee and sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, and scrolled through them. The messages ranged from angry to pleading to threatening. My mother called me every name in the book. My father tried the logical approach, explaining how much they needed me. Brittany sent a voice message crying about how I had ruined her engagement. Not once did any of them apologize. Not once did any of them ask if I was okay. Not once did they acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, they had done something wrong. I deleted the messages without responding. Later that day, a reporter from a local Portland news blog reached out. Somehow, Word had gotten out about my Thanksgiving dinner for the children from Maple Grove. One of the kids had posted a photo on social media, a picture of all of us around the table, smiling, and it had gone viral in the local community. "We'd love to do a story," the reporter said. "What you did was really special." I almost said no, but then I thought, why not? Why should I hide the good things I do? For years, I had made myself small, invisible, accommodating. I had hidden my light because it might make others uncomfortable. I was done with that. The story ran 2 days later. "Local architect creates Thanksgiving magic for foster children," the headline read. The photo of me surrounded by smiling kids was the featured image. The article talked about the elaborate meal, the decorations, the activities, and my decision to open my home to children who needed a family for the holidays. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of comments poured in. "This is what Thanksgiving is supposed to be about. What an angel." Faith in humanity restored. Local businesses reached out asking how they could support similar events in the future. Mrs. Evans called me crying, happy tears because donations to Maple Grove had tripled overnight. For the first time in my life, I was seen. Really seen. Not as the disappointing daughter. Not as the ATM. Not as the shadow of someone more worthy. Just as Hannah. A person who chose to do something kind. My mother saw the article. I know because she called me 17 times in 1 hour. I didn't answer. She left voicemails. "Hannah, I saw what you did. That's very nice. But you're making us look bad. People are asking why you weren't with family for Thanksgiving. What am I supposed to tell them? You need to take that article down. You're embarrassing us." I listened to the voicemail and laughed. Actually laughed. Even now. Even after everything. She couldn't just be happy for me. She had to make it about herself. About how my choices reflected on her. I blocked her number. 3 days after Thanksgiving. They showed up at the cabin. I was chopping wood for the fireplace when I heard the car. A silver SUV. My father driving. My mother in the passenger seat. Brittany in the back. They looked out of place against the rustic backdrop. Too polished. Too angry. Too determined to bend me back into the shape they needed. I set down the axe and waited. I didn't invite them in. I didn't smile. I just stood there. On my property. In my space. And watched them climb out of the car. "Hannah." My mother started. Her voice sharp. "We need to talk." "No," I said simply. "We don't." "Don't you dare," she began. But I cut her off. "You came to my home uninvited. You're standing on my property. You have exactly 2 minutes to say whatever you came to say. And then you need to leave." My father looked shocked. Brittany looked like she might cry. My mother looked furious. "How dare you speak to me that way?" she hissed. "I'm your mother." "Are you?" Because mothers don't uninvite their daughters from Thanksgiving and call them burdens. Mothers don't take their children's money for years without a word of thanks. Mothers don't play favorites so blatantly that one child grows up feeling worthless. "We never made you feel worthless," my mother said. But her voice wavered. "Yes, you did. Every single day of my life. And I accepted it because I thought that's what love looked like. But it's not. Love doesn't keep score. Love doesn't demand payment. Love doesn't mock or belittle or exclude." Brittany spoke up. Her voice small. "We just need you to turn the utilities back on. Hannah, it's freezing. We can't afford to pay all those bills ourselves. Then you'll have to figure it out. Like I've been figuring things out my entire life without your help." "This is ridiculous," my mother said. "You're being petty and vindictive. We told you not to come to one Thanksgiving. And you're acting like we committed a crime. It wasn't one Thanksgiving. Mom, it was every Thanksgiving. Every Christmas. Every birthday. Every moment of my life when I needed you to see me. To value me. And you chose Brittany instead. I'm not angry about one dinner. I'm tired of 31 years of being treated like I don't matter." My father cleared his throat. "What do you want from us? Hannah, an apology? Fine. I'm sorry. Now will you please turn the utilities back on?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't want your apology." I don't want your money. I don't want your time or your attention or your approval. I don't want anything from you anymore. I'm free of you." My mother's face twisted. "You ungrateful little—" "No," I said firmly. I was grateful. I was grateful for scraps. I was grateful for the bare minimum. I was grateful to be tolerated in my own family. But I'm done being grateful for less than I deserve. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be valued. And if you can't give me that, then I don't need you in my life." There was a long silence. The wind moved through the pine trees. Snow began to fall, light and soft. Brittany was crying openly now. "You're breaking up our family." "No," I said gently. "I'm just refusing to pretend we ever were one." My mother opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. For once in her life, she had nothing to say. She looked at me like I was a stranger. And I realized, with a start, that maybe I was. Maybe she had never really known me at all. "You'll regret this," she finally said. "You'll come back. You always do." "You're wrong," I said. "I always did. But I won't anymore." They left without another word. I watched their SUV disappear down the dirt road, and I felt nothing but relief. No guilt. No sadness. No doubt. Just the sure knowledge that I had chosen myself. Finally. Irrevocably. A year passed. The cabin became my permanent home. I set up a home office and continued my architecture work remotely, taking on clients who valued my vision. I made friends in Bend. Real friends who invited me to things because they enjoyed my company, not because they needed something from me. I adopted a dog, a scruffy mutt from the shelter named Biscuit who followed me everywhere. And every Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner at the cabin for the kids from Maple Grove. It became our tradition. The kids looked forward to it all year. Some of them, the ones who had been there that first year, started calling me Aunt Hannah. Mrs. Evans said I had become part of their family. I didn't hear from my parents for 10 months. No calls. No texts. No apologies. And then, in early September, a letter arrived. Not from my mother or father, but from Brittany. "Dear Hannah." It read, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how we treated you. I always told myself it wasn't that bad, that you were overreacting, that you were too sensitive. But the more I think about it, the more I realize you were right. We did treat you terribly. I treated you terribly. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, but I want you to know that I see it now. I see how wrong it was. I'm sorry." I read the letter 3 times. It was something. Not enough. Maybe never enough. But it was something. I wrote back. Not a long letter. Just a few lines. "Thank you for acknowledging it. That means more than you know. I'm not ready to have a relationship with the family yet. Maybe someday. But I'm glad you're growing. That's all any of us can do." I didn't hear from my parents directly until Thanksgiving week of the following year. A package arrived. No return address. Just a postmark from Boise. Inside was a photo of the house. It looked different. Smaller somehow. Darker. The lawn was overgrown. The paint was peeling. The maple tree had lost a major branch. On the back of the photo, in my mother's handwriting, "We're sorry. We should have done better. We understand if you never want to see us again. But we're sorry. Love. Mom and Dad." I stared at that photo for a long time. Part of me wanted to crumple it up, to throw it in the fire, to prove that I didn't need their apology. But another part of me, the part that was healing, the part that had learned to be gentle with herself, knew that acknowledging their apology didn't mean I had to let them back in. I could accept that they were sorry and still choose to keep my distance. I put the photo in a drawer. Not thrown away, but not displayed either. Just there. Existing. Like that chapter of my life. Over but not erased. That Thanksgiving. As I stood in my cabin, surrounded by kids making construction paper turkeys and the smell of pie baking in the oven, Mrs. Evans came up beside me. "You did it," she said softly. "Did what?" Built something beautiful from something broken. I looked around. At Theo, now 8, helping the younger kids glue googly eyes on their crafts. At the long table that would soon hold more food than we could eat. At the fire crackling in the hearth. At Biscuit asleep on the couch. At the photos on the wall, new memories replacing old pain. Yeah, I said. I guess I did. That night, after the kids had gone home full and happy, I stood on the porch, watching the stars. My phone was inside. Silent. No desperate calls from people who only valued me when I was useful. Just peace. Just quiet. Just the sound of wind in the pines and my own steady breathing. A year ago, I had been banned from Thanksgiving. Told I was a burden. A buzzkill. Too negative to tolerate. And in response, I hadn't fought back with anger or spite. I had simply chosen to build my own table. My own traditions. My own family. I thought about all the years I had spent trying to earn love that was never going to be freely given. I thought about all the money. The time. The emotional energy I had poured into a bottomless well. I thought about the person I had been. Small and apologetic and desperate to prove my worth. I wasn't that person anymore. I choose myself. I whispered to the stars. Finally. Completely. I choose myself. The universe didn't answer, but it didn't need to. I already knew I had made the right choice. So here's what I want you to remember. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not your family. Not your friends. Not anyone. If someone makes you feel small. If they take and never give. If they only call when they need something. You have permission to walk away. You have permission to cut the strings. You have permission to build your own table and invite only the people who truly value you. The hardest prison to escape is the one we build ourselves out of guilt and obligation. But the key has always been in your hand. You just have to be brave enough to use it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from a toxic relationship? What gave you the strength to finally put yourself first? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, if you've ever felt like the forgotten one, the taken for granted one, hit that like button and subscribe. Your story matters. Your healing matters. You matter. What will you choose today?